What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Lindsay Jones with me from Rockford Homes. Lindsay, thanks so much
Hello.
for taking time out of your schedule to jump on to the Tell Me More podcast and really diving in and sharing your story.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm super excited because I was telling Lindsay, I said she's the first builder rep that I've had on the podcast. And um, I like it because it's going to be a little bit of a different dynamic. And I think we can kind of dive into different topics, within the real estate space. And we were just talking a little bit beforehand, you don't have to say that you're a real estate agent, right? There's so many different ways to be in the real estate industry and to be involved. And it just looks a little bit differently. So, Lindsay, I'm super excited. One, because obviously, getting to learn a little bit more about you and your story and then the new construction side as well, which is, I've been bullish on it, for at least the last 12 to 18 months myself, just here in our market and why agents need to be, you know, focusing on it a little bit heavier than probably what they have been in the past. So,
Agreed.
Lindsay, we always start out on the Tell Me More podcast uh, with your childhood.
Ah,
What was life like for you growing up?
well, I grew up here in Columbus. Spent most of my life here. I did take a few hiatus as I grew up and wanted to experience other places. But yeah, I went to Upper Arlington High School and, wasn't big into school, which is probably why I ended up in real estate. So I did, normal whatever classes you had to do. And then I actually did those vocational programs. So I did photography for my junior and senior year. I spent most of my day there, and then I had a full time job too. So it was a very less school focused and more like making money. And that's probably a key thing with getting into real estate is you have to have that drive to make money. Sure did.
Yeah. Are you still doing some photography type stuff on the side or no?
I wish I was better at it. I learned in the dark room. So, it was actually like film and
Yeah.
digital cameras. I had one, but it wasn't like real photography at that point. So I'm a little out of the game now. Definitely not up with it. I can barely take an iPhone picture anymore. I don't know.
So, growing up here, did you end up going to college? What was kind of the next steps after high school?
So after high school, I actually did a little bit of, community college, but I actually started working at Rockford Homes the summer after I graduated as
Wow.
a sales assistant. Yeah. So that was the first real job I had. It was a great experience because it was like my college. It was my real estate college.
Hmm.
I did sales assistant. I worked with buyers. I did that, and then I also worked in the office. So I ended up going into the design center. Did that for a while, and then I was like an executive assistant, processing contracts and understanding all the like background stuff that goes into selling a house. Now it was in 2003, so we were doing handwritten contracts at that point.
Yeah.
So also a little different.
I don't miss those days. And I got
Man,
in 2011, so I only got a little bit of it, and I don't miss those
yeah,
days.
we had option books like, I mean, 5 inches thick, and we faxed everything. It was like, oh, we have an update in prices, so you get the fax. If you didn't get the fax, sorry, you got to go back to the client.
Yeah. What made you get into the real estate world then? Did you have an interest, someone in the family that was involved? Like, what was it?
Both. Yeah. So my dad actually has owned rental properties. So he's been in real estate for my whole life. And so I grew up around, he would do flips. He actually, I mean, the properties he purchased were in the ghetto at the time. I mean, it was in bad areas. It was Victorian Village, some areas of Grandview, and which areas now, I mean, they're amazing. So he's had these long-term properties since, the early 80s. And so he's always done that. He had a few hundred at one point. And
Wow.
so I was around he'd do like one big flip a year as far as like, buying something and, fixing it up. And one of my best friend's dads worked for Rockford Homes and he needed an assistant. So that's how I actually got hired at Rockford.
So did you actually have a passion for real estate though? Because I've had a couple people on agents where it seems 50-50, right? Like they've had a family member or parent, and half of them were like, not getting into the business, and clearly they ended up getting into the business. And then we had the other half that was like absolutely loved what my, family member did, and, loved everything about real estate, as a child, growing up and
Yeah.
seeing how that worked. Where did you fall?
I thought about going to art school, but then I also thought about, would I ever make money doing that? But the only natural thing felt like real estate. And it truly has been the only thing I've like had confidence in, and felt like I could really do well and have done well in whatever capacity I was doing it. So I don't think there was really another option. It was, I was 18 and thinking, well, I should have options, but I don't think there really was. I think this is
Yeah.
what I was meant to do. So
Yeah. No, I mean, it's always interesting because there's not many people that get into the real estate space right out of high school. I always tell people, like, typically it's a second, third, fourth, fifth career choice, and
mhm.
I'm always curious of, is there something in someone's early childhood or life that, gets them into the business faster or sooner than, someone that gets in, at 44 years old, and
Well, yeah,
um,
and people look at me. I'm turning 40 this year, and I said I've been doing this for, what is it now, 21 years. And they look at me like I'm nuts. Like, there's no way you've been doing this 21 years. But I, truly, right out of high school, and I, pretty much didn't stop. I had a few years where I took off, I went and served tables and moved states and whatever. But that's really been my only like real jobs, is something real
yeah.
estate related. So
So kind of walk me through your real estate path, your real estate journey, your real estate career. Obviously, you said you got in like 03, 04 ish,
Oh,
something.
02. I graduated in 02, and I started, I
Okay.
think that summer is when I started at
Okay.
Rockford. And so kind of said it before, but I did sales assistant stuff and it was during the time when, I mean, you were just order taking, and it was, just person after person getting those interest only
Yeah.
loans. And so did that for 5 years. And then, the bottom fell out, and I was in the office, and I remember we had like a whiteboard that would count sales, we track
Hmm.
sales on this whiteboard, which they still have today. Um, and I kept seeing that number. I mean, we'd be at like 30 houses, which was, kind of average a month. And I kept looking at that, and we'd get to the end of the month, we were like 7 and 6. And I was like, I feel like something's going on here. And that's when I decided, I was like, I haven't lived anywhere else. I haven't done anything else. So I moved to Arizona for 3 years. And just, I had some family out there, and I liked the weather, and just went and, I did some college and just served tables and did that.
Yeah.
Then my sister had children, and it was like, oh, well, now I want to be around with them. So I came back, and then I started working for another builder. I did in between work for an aviation caterer, which was an interesting job. But
Well, I definitely need to touch base on that here in a second. But before the crash, before the recession, were you in a sales capacity at that time, or were you still kind of behind the scenes?
when it was happening, like 2000, so I left in the summer of 2007. And that's, I mean, things started kind of end of 2006 started to take a dive. So summer of 2007 is when I quit and moved. So I was in the role of, I was processing contracts, and I was,
Mm.
like kind of the in between. I wasn't a manager because they didn't really have that position, but I was kind of the in between, the person who communicated
Sure.
with salespeople and then communicated to management.
Sure. So then you go out to Arizona, just kind of change of scenery, change of pace. Is that when you did the aviation catering?
That's when I actually came back. So I came back to
Okay.
Ohio, and I don't even know how I got that job, but it was private aviation catering. So it was really, I have some really good stories about flight attendants. Their celebrity clients are like ordering whatever random food they want, and so they're just like writing down furiously what this client said, hoping they understand what it is, and then they try and translate it to us. And I like, this is the story that goes down in infamy, is they were wanting to order huevos ranchos, and everyone's like, what? She's like, huevos ranchos. They want huevos ranchos. No one could figure it out. Finally, like, we slowed it down, wrote it out, and she wanted huevos rancheros for their order. And it took, like, I don't know, a few hours for everyone to figure out what she actually wanted to order for. And honestly, it might have been like Eric Clapton. There were so many big celebrities that we were trying to track down things. So part of our job was, they'd fly into these really small airports with their private jet,
Mhm.
and they'd have a, request like, a lobster roll. There's a story with that where someone wanted a lobster roll from a specific food truck in like the tip of Long Island. But they were like, driving in Long Island, New York area, it's like it could be 4 miles, but it's going to take some hours to get there.
Yeah.
So we had someone on the ground, like just driving for a whole day to go get this, lobster roll that ended up being $150 because it was so hard to get to and actually get it to them.
Oh my
But
gosh. So you did all of that. So you helped with like coordinating from
yeah,
here.
so I was like the customer service. So we were, people would call in. We had contracts with all these smaller aviation like places like where people were landing and they'd be in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah.
depending on the area, we'd have either resources of caterers that we could do it, or we'd have kitchens on site. If it was like a bigger area, we had our own kitchens that we could, pretty much make whatever they wanted.
And it's so interesting to me because I never would have thought that that would have been a business, but it makes total sense. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
A concierge for, the wealthy, for
Yeah.
what they want to have stocked on their private jet. I mean, talk about having to provide, 5-star customer service,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It was wild. And it was like, we talked to a lot of flight attendants and, it was it's a game of phone, just trying to figure out exactly, and you had to get it right. I mean, if you didn't, you got fired and they were no longer going to be using your services. So
Yeah.
hey, it sounds like real
Curious,
estate.
curious, is there any lessons that you learned from that time?
Um, I mean, a big part was the communication, just how important it was to ask questions and understand, when someone's saying huevos ranchos, like, and you don't know what that is, like, was there anything else? Like, what did they want with it? Was it rice and beans? Okay, then maybe we're on the right track. So asking
Yeah.
questions and trying to understand versus just taking someone for the words they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I interview a lot of people, there's usually things that obviously happened in previous years that have big impacts in their real estate business. And a lot of times I find, because most of the time we don't actually sit and reflect and think about our journey, and I can just imagine how much, that has played into your real estate career now, going through that experience, having that career, because I bet there was a little bit more higher stress and demand because you're probably not preparing a week out for something like this. I mean, you're
Mhm.
probably 12 hours or less, and
Exactly.
and
Yeah, and or
and
they got in early or they get in late. We have to still make sure it's hot. Oh, you already arrived? Looks like we're remaking it.
yeah,
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 it was a
I
lot
can
of
only
that.
imagine. I can only imagine. So then after that, you said you did that for a couple years. When lead me up to the point of you kind of getting back into the real estate space.
So actually, I think, yeah, the job after that, I got hired at Ryan Homes. So then I worked at Ryan Homes for 5 years, which was honestly a great builder to start with. They do really heavy duty training. So, I'd been out of real estate for a few years and I'd never had a formal training anyway. So, they send you to a different state and you do some very intense training, sales training, learning how to talk to people and what questions to ask and all that. So that has carried me through, for the rest of my career. That was a good move to get started in the new builds or restarted in the new builds.
Hmm. And I don't know the builder world 100%. Is it commission based? Is it bonus plus commission? Like how's it work?
I want to say most builders are commission based, but I know there are some builders that do a small, like a lower salary plus
Yeah,
commissions. When I worked at Ryan, it was like it was a commission based, but it was a quota based commission. So like there was a target salary that they gave you, and then your quota was based on that. Like, hey, we think you can sell 3 homes a month in this, and so this is how much you get paid per home to
gotcha.
reach that target salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got back in, obviously it was after the recession, all of those things. People saw and experienced what that was. Going into more of a commission based job, after everything, did you have supporters, doubters getting back into it?
No, honestly, I didn't. It was always my natural state. And one thing I think that probably contributed to really going forward with real estate even at a young age was that my parents didn't pressure me to go to college. It wasn't like they felt like that was so important that, every person needs to go. Like, they absolutely would have supported me if I wanted to go, or I felt like there was a thing I needed to learn in college. And, they were full on if I wanted to. But when I ended up not going, they were like, do whatever makes you happy, do what makes you money. Like, and, they were always there to support me. I moved back in with them multiple times. You tend to do that. So they've always been there to do that. And so there was never any doubting on that side. It was really just support.
Curious, did they go to college?
Well, okay, I lied. My dad did go to college. He actually got a bachelor. He could have been a vet. But yeah, he like got a Bachelor of Science in animal medicine, I think. But he found real estate, so he never used it. And my mom was a real estate agent for a really short amount of time when we were like babies, and then stayed home with us. And so he just did the real estate game after that. And
Yeah, I'm always curious. I went to college, and I always say I didn't use my degree. 3 weeks after I jumped into real estate. And I don't know how I would. I have my views. My wife has her views. She went to higher level education. She has a grad degree. She's a psych NP, and I'm just a real estate agent. So it's like we have different opinions of college and the need for it. And I believe it's great to experience, but I don't know if you necessarily need it to go and have success in life, right? So I'm always curious.
I totally agree. That dynamic. I think it just needs to be. I know that if you're going to be a doctor, absolutely got to go to college.
Sure.
There's a lot of careers that college is going to be helpful and necessary. But if there isn't, don't waste the money if it's not something that you're going to really take something from. Or if you go a year and you're like, this isn't working for me, or it isn't doing anything for me, then don't continue. I think there tends to be a lot of pressure on like finishing college just to have that degree. But, it depends on where you're at. If you can get some experience, especially like in the real estate world, if you get some experience, that is your resume. That's your college degree. And actually my boss, who's still my boss now from Rockford, like that was like Lindsay to college years. Like I was learning so much when I first worked at Rockford in those first few years after high school that truly was my college, and it set me up for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Lindsay, so you go to Ryan Homes, you do their training. I think you said you were there 5 years. Is that right?
Yes.
What was kind of your next step after that?
So one of my previous coworkers at Ryan, she went to a different builder. It was a developer downtown. So a lot different setup than like a typical production builder. So they were developer builder and just getting into doing like single family kind of stuff, or, townhomes and things. So they were looking for another sales rep. So I actually moved over there. It was a lot more of like a flexible, schedule type of thing. We got our real estate license, but we worked primarily for the builder. We could do other real estate, but we had enough going on with what we were doing there. So that was another great experience, because I got to be involved in the development side of, the land deals, and actually creating floor plans, and, what thought goes into that on the back end before you actually, release a plan, and, what things you need to know about the land before you can even build a floor plan. And so that was hugely helpful with just, everything going forward, staying in the building sector.
Yeah. One of my coaching clients is also a custom home builder. And, we talk about it all the time about how real estate agents and a lot of people in the real estate space don't understand what it takes to get into land development and community development. And I don't have a clue. I mean, I know some of it, right? Just from my conversations with her, but I don't, you just talking about, what floor plans can be developed based off of, what's happening with the land and all those things. Did you like that? Did you like loved the creative side?
Yeah, I love the creative side, and I loved, because it is important. I think that some builders miss that opportunity when they get, so big that they're not listening to the people who are on the front lines. I mean, the salespeople are on the front lines. We're talking to humans every day who are looking to buy houses. And so, trends change, needs change. I mean, after this pandemic, like needs have changed. People need offices. Before it was just like open floor plan everywhere. I don't want walls. And now it's like, I need walls back. I'm home all the time with my kids.
Yeah.
So I think that, it was great being a voice for that and being able to talk to people and have an influence on, how they were building homes to, sell them quickly and make it easy, for someone to make a decision because you have what they need or want because we're listening. So I
Yeah.
love that part.
Yeah. And how long were you there for?
So I was there for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I moved back to Arizona again. In between that, in 2014, so I started riding in 2012, and then in 2014 I met my husband in Arizona because I have friends there, like lifelong friends.
Mhm.
And he moved to Ohio with me, and so we were living together for 5 years and got married. And then after we got married, we decided to go back there because all of his family's there. And then the pandemic happened, and so things got weird. So we actually moved March of no April 9th, 2020,
Oh
and it
wow.
was the last nonstop flight from Columbus before they basically shut everything down to get there. And we ended up having to leave a day early because they canceled everything else. And I had a 4-month-old and my husband with me, and it was us, 3 flight attendants, and like one other couple on the entire airplane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was insane. I've never seen it was deserted. Nobody was there. We were all terrified because we still didn't know like what was happening, and so
Sure.
all the plans changed. It was like, oh, we're gonna live with my aunt for a while. Nope, can't do that. So it was a crazy few months, but I will tell you, it was really great not working a whole lot and having a pool and just hanging out with my baby for like a year.
Always the positives, right? Always the
Yeah, it was
positive.
good.
So did you do any real estate out there, or what was kind of the plan?
So the plan was just we were both going to do real estate, me and my husband. And it was a little harder to get started than, I thought, or, I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, but I was coming from, growing up here and, being
Mhm.
able to use your resources in your, sphere to get things going. But it turned into in Arizona, it was like a lot of self promotion to strangers. And that is probably my least favorite thing about real estate is promoting myself as the product, which is why I think I like new builds better. I'm comfortable promoting a product that is not my face or like my
Yeah.
services necessarily. Like I really love learning something inside and out and actually being a help to get people to buy a home. Like I want them to buy the right house, whether or not it's mine. I'm going to do my best to, have mine be what they need, but it's not always the case. And I think that that's something that a lot of people kind of need to remember is you're not going to win every one. But
Mhm.
if you do right by people, I mean, even I've had people refer their friends to me, even though they didn't buy a house from me because they had a good experience. They felt like I wasn't just trying to sell them a house because I wanted to make my paycheck, which is
Yeah.
truly, I mean, I have on my computer here, I have a label that says live in the right home because you need to live in the right home. Like, and there's
Right.
tons of options. So I want to help you narrow it down. I want to help you find out what that right home is.
Yeah. You said something there that, self promotion, you weren't necessarily comfortable with that. And I think, that does hold a lot of people back, on my side of the business, right? It
Absolutely.
is, you are the product. And you have to be okay and comfortable or get comfortable with saying, hey, like I did a training a little bit, an hour or so ago, 2 hours ago. And you have to believe that we can solve a lot of people's problems through homeownership, right? And you have to believe that you are the right agent and the best agent for that person to help them accomplish their real estate goals. And in the training, I said, look, I may not win every single time, right? But I do believe in my core that I believe real estate is powerful, right? I believe that everyone should be able to own a home. I believe that it can help solve a lot of people's problems. And I believe that I'm also, want the best person for them, right? Because if you don't believe that, right, you're going to struggle because if you don't promote that, you're already behind, right? It's like
Mhm.
for you, if you don't believe in the product of what you're selling, right? You're not going to get clients to be excited, right? To go through
Absolutely.
that build process, to, go into the design center and leave, you know, filled with joy because, they're starting to see the vision of their home coming together.
Yeah.
And we were talking offline that, I'm a big believer when I help a lot of new agents get into the business. And when they're in a time of struggle, right? It's, why did you get into real estate? You can make money doing anything in the world, right? Like, but why specifically real estate? And if you're not passionate about this side of the business, maybe it's another side of the business, right? And we
Hmm.
talked offline, maybe it's the new build world, right? And go and sell new builds. That might be the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And for you, it sounds like it was just a little bit easier to sell, the product of the build instead of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I mean, I enjoy the flexibility that comes with, residential real estate and, you can do that. But I just realized that, I'm okay sitting in a model and having to have model hours and stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry. And, that was a trade-off for me, although it wasn't what I preferred. I don't know how to turn that off. Sorry. It's worth it to me.
Yeah. Well, anything that we do in your side of the business or my side of the business, or in life, it all comes down to sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
What are the sacrifices that we're willing to make, or not willing to make? So Lindsay, lead me up to kind of current day. Obviously, you moved back to Arizona during the pandemic, and
Yep.
and we're back there. How did you get back to Columbus? And then when did you get back into selling for Rockford?
So did regular real estate out there, and we bought a house, we renovated it, we did a full renovation. So that was a whole fun learning process as well. And then I had a second baby, and being closer to my immediate family became more and more important. As far as help with that, and just being closer to them. So we decided to move back at the beginning of this year, and so on my way out, I had a 4-month-old, and then on my way back, I had a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old. So, I like to keep it exciting. A couple cross country moves,
Well,
babies.
this time you probably had a full flight.
Yeah, it was definitely a full flight. We actually bought the baby seat because I was like, I don't want to deal with that. So, but yeah, so we came back. When did I get back? February 1st of this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Rockford was I just randomly, I saw one of my friends that worked there when I worked there in, 2002. She worked there. She had taken 10 years off to have her baby. She had come back like the year before from her extended maternity leave. And so I called her and was like, hey, are they hiring? And she's like, they might be. And just happened.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I want to throughout your career, and now you're more in the sales role, just curious of, and your side's a little bit different than my side, but I believe business is business, right? It's the same principles and practices, all of those things.
Mhm.
How did you think about building your business from a sales rep standpoint? I don't know if you had any certain strategies or thought process or tactics, right? Of obviously we still have to go and get people, right? We still have to have people walk into the door. We still have to build relationships. How did you go and build your business? And then ultimately coming back, obviously you're from here, right? So you have some
Mhm.
sphere and some connections and things like that. Coming back and building it now, have those strategies and tactics changed, or are they still the same?
From my first, like, so from after my first round at Rockford. So when I got, full training, all that at Ryan Homes, I will say, I feel like that was a million years ago. It was about, okay, 10 years ago, but 10 years it's an enormous amount of time in this life. And so at that point, I mean, I don't feel like I actually had a plan. I didn't like implement strategies. I went to work, I did like the tasks that I was supposed to do, or, like there's a lot of reporting and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I would say I didn't have like a business plan for myself. And then this time around, working at Rockford is a whole different story, because honestly, Rockford is a different builder than most in the city. We're, family owned. It's just a lot smaller of a set up. And so there isn't formal training, they're not requiring us to do any reporting or anything. It's really like they hire people who have done this for a long time, and they're like, go sell however you
Yeah.
sell. So it's been a lot more fun for me this time around to do what I feel is the best, you know, action or the best thing to do. And honestly,
Yeah.
what's really got me back into it for a lot of it is social media. And I'm not saying social media of like posting in contract, I just sold a house. It's interacting with real estate agents. It's your builder to realtor group is amazing. It's such a great group where I love that, builders, they're not like fighting each other for real estate agents to talk to them. It's just very collaborative. And I've
Right.
gotten deals from that. I've gotten actual sales from that Facebook group.
Well, good.
So
That was
that's
the goal.
been a huge part. Yeah, no, it's a really great resource, and it's a great resource. Like there's a lot of builder reps who have to shop their competition, and they have to know what other builders are doing. And I have no problem sharing that with people because I was there. I used to have to do that, and it's
Yeah.
good to understand and see where you're at in the business. And if I have someone come in and be like, I have to have zero down or something like that. I know that's not really something that we can do, but I know some
Right.
builders that probably could do that or might have more flexibility with that. And so I have no problem, sending someone somewhere else or giving them another idea if we're not the right fit. And I only learned that by collaborating and interacting with people. And
Yeah.
social media is it, man.
Yeah. I'm one that believes, obviously, I'm all over social media. It's part of my business pillars. But I believe that you don't have to be on social media to have success, but I think you have to be on social media so people know that you're doing business, if that makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be something that you are intentionally, you know, networking, collaborating with, but I think you have to be there. Why? Because that's where our people are. For you, you have a couple different clients, right? You have the agent as a client, to potentially bring you people, and then you also have the people that walk through the door,
Yep.
as the client. So, if you guys are, not collaborating, with other build, and if you're outside of Central Ohio, and I don't know where it is, how it is in Arizona or any, I think we are pretty lucky that we have a lot of builders in our marketplace that are agent friendly.
Yeah. It is
You
not
know,
like that in Arizona. It's a fight. They're like, fine, we'll let them be here. But, I mean, I was an agent and I went to go a specific builder out there. I had a client, I went to show up to the final walkthrough and they're like, nope, you can't come in the door. Just
wow,
sorry. Bye. Like,
wow,
yeah. So it's definitely, we are lucky in this market to, I think almost every builder is on board with agents and see what their value is. And truly there is a value. I think that's a thing I've talked to a lot of, especially younger agents and even older ones, people who have built their business and they don't need new builds. I think you're going to need new builds. And
yeah,
so one of the reasons I see why they don't go to new build or don't try and promote it or offer it is number one, it's a little slow of a process. You're not getting paid right away. But also they don't know what their value is in that process of new build. Like, well, if there's a sales rep, like what is my value? Am I going to be able to provide something? Absolutely you are. Like absolutely agents can be helpful. And, it's great to have. I love working with the agents. Like I love to be on the same page. I do my best to always include them on whatever communication. But I think some agents maybe have had not great experiences with that or just aren't sure like what their role in the scenario is. And so they kind of avoid it, which
yeah,
I mean, you're missing a big part of our industry, at least here in the Central Ohio market, because that's where it's at. I mean, you can't
yeah.
avoid new builds.
Well, it's one of those things, the reason why I created that group was because I was one, like, at the time, this was like the end of 2019. So I think our team had sold, I don't know, 200-ish homes, maybe somewhere around there, less than that, I forget. But that was a big piece of the industry that we did not tap into. We didn't really focus on new
Mhm.
construction, didn't really have a clue about new construction. And ultimately, I was just kind of frustrated because I felt like my own client trying to Google search and figure out who do I need to reach out to in this area and who's the rep and I'm calling a 1-800 number. And, it was just
Right.
more frustrating for me. Um, So I wanted to create like that watered down MLS feel where I could go to one spot and say, hey, who's got what in this area and who do I need to reach out to? Because I am with you in this on the topic of whether you're doing new construction or not. I think it's going to be the thing over the next decade and a half that's going to get us out of this low inventory market, right? And if you guys read all of the stats, new construction in Central Ohio is so far behind. You know,
And it
I
has
think
been for since we
since
recovered from, the
the
recession, like
recession.
it has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how's that important? Why, as an agent, why do we need to know those things, right? Well, real estate's still supply and demand. I don't care what else is happening in the world, interest rates, all of those things. The last stat I saw, it was like by 2050 or something, if we stay on pace of what we're doing right now in new construction, we will be over 100,000 homes short,
Yeah.
right? For our
And we can't
population.
build fast enough, right?
Can't build fast enough, right? So like those things are important, and your value as an agent in the new construction space is your expertise, because these people aren't going to live there forever, right? Like they still need to build this home thinking the end in mind, even though they're telling you, John, it's going to be my 20-30 year plan. Well,
Not likely.
that doesn't happen. And my friend built a home up in Johnstown a couple years ago, and their neighbors have the same exact. I think it's the same exact house. Each had an option for a bump out. If it's not the same, they had an option for a bump out. I talked to my friends into doing the bump out and spending the money for it. Their neighbor did not do it. And when you walk in that house in that living room, 4 feet makes a huge difference in feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 feet makes a big difference in value and what you're going to get in return when you go to sell it. And that's the value that agents bring in that situation, right? Obviously,
Mhm.
the rep's going to advise them as well. Hey, here's the most common things that are picked out, or hey, don't spend your money necessarily on this, and because you might want to move it over here to this. And there are
Yeah.
great reps out there that do that, but as an agent, that is your value too, because they're probably going to be selling this thing in the future, and then we got to think what's going to
Yeah.
bring true value to the home.
And they trust you. Like by the time you get to us, I mean, usually sometimes you go straight to the builder, but like a lot of times
Right.
you've seen houses, you've been working together. They do trust you. And as much as I want to be trusted, as much as their agent, I mean, I do work for the seller. So, bottom line is I'm selling you a house, and my allegiance is to my boss.
Yeah.
So my job is to help facilitate it. My job is to, make things clear, make sure you understand what the process is and what to expect. And I will definitely be your advocate where I can be, but it's great to have the agent on their side to, you know, even confirm if I'm telling them something and they don't like it, that the agent can also confirm, like, yes, this is how it is, or this is normal, or whatever the
Right.
thing is. And I think it helps to, make the process easier and more fun.
Right. Lindsay, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and look towards the future
Mhm.
of kind of where you want to get to in the business. What's something that you're looking to accomplish over the next 12 months? What's a goal of yours?
I want to be able to build a house. So I actually want to. Okay, I want to find my forever-ish home. I I mean, I have a floor plan I want to build. I know, but got to make the money to build that house. But yeah, my goal would be to we're renting right now, and with how mortgages work, I have to have a history of selling here and making money. So
Yeah.
a year from now, hopefully, I am in a position that I can at least start the process of building my home and not moving for many, many years. I'm so over moving.
Not
So
going
that was
back
my
to work
12 months.
in 3 years.
No, never, never again.
What's a 5 year goal for you? What's a 5 year goal?
5 year goal would to be to have work life balance. I can tend to get very into my work. I mean, it's always been like my passion, just whatever my job is. I take it pretty seriously, and I want to do it well, and I want to do it right. And so I think with having two little kids and a husband, I've got to learn how to balance it and prioritize what needs to be prioritized while still making money for my family. I am the only one working. My husband stays home with the kids. So, it's pressure to actually do well at work, but also like the whole point of life is your family and your friends and
Hmm.
enjoying it. So I think that over the next 5 years, I mean, I don't have any specific, like, I want to make this much money. It's not really that. I want to be comfortable, but I want to make sure that I'm with my family as much as I can be while still, succeeding.
What do you think? Um, what do you think that you would need to have in place in order to help you with that?
What would I need to have in place?
I mean, because this is a lot of times, people get into the business, they want either the most money, freedom, flexibility, right?
Mhm.
And you can have all three, but the problem is most people don't set it up that way, right? Like real estate can be a very rewarding um, industry, and when I say rewarding, I don't mean always financially. I mean the ability to come and go as you want. Obviously, your
Right.
side's a little bit different, with model time, hours and all of those things. But, to have that true work life balance, and I'm going to guess that because you've been in real estate since, 18, 19 years old and you have a passion for it, that it's probably going to be a hard thing to solve for
Yeah.
because it doesn't work for us, right? Like,
Mm-mm.
we could probably do this 10 hours, 12 hours a day if we wanted to, 7 days a week, because that's just
Right.
what we know and we actually love doing it. So, for you to have that work life balance, what would be something that you need to have in place to help you do it?
I mean, especially with the kids are so little right now, everything's pretty scheduled, but I think staying kind of with that schedule and respecting my days off, like, and I've actually done better than I thought I would with that. Cause I truly want to be with my family and people do understand that I'm like learning that customers don't need me to like meet them on my days off. They
Hmm.
understand that like people do have families and life and whatever. So, I think having that schedule and having the knowing that like I am committing my time on my days off, whatever those scheduled days are for, vacations, whatever, actually taking the time and making that a priority. Um, Other than that, I mean, this job, I mean, it is a job. I have hours for the most part. You're always on your phone and computer, but as far as sitting here, I only have to be here so many hours. And so making sure that I'm sticking to that as much as I can is really the only plan I can have to have that balance.
Yeah. Setting just the expectations around the time, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
That's really all most people want, right? Is as long as they know when you're free, when you're going to respond to the phone call, when you're going to reply to the email,
Yeah.
typically most people are okay with that.
Put your out of office on so you have a little bit of like say I'm off today, I might not get back to you right away. And that's one thing I've been trying to do on my days off so that I don't feel the pressure to respond right away. And if you don't respond, they're going to move on, that type of
Yeah.
thing. Because you're always afraid of like losing someone's focus. And
Right.
um so yeah, I think setting the expectation for my family as well as the people I'm working with, like, hey, I might not be as available on these days because I have a 1 year old and a 4 year old.
Yeah. Lindsay, what's a legacy goal for you? What's a goal that you want to hit when you're no longer here?
Wow, that's deep. um, I once, I mean, I think about the future and I think about, I mean, it seems financial. It seems like everything kind of comes down to, what makes you comfortable. And it's not having to worry about finances. I feel like my parents were, they never gave me everything. They never like, just gave me money or just gave me the things I wanted. I mean, even though they did have the money, they never just gave it. They made me work for it. And I think that I like my goal is to have things set up financially that when I am gone, that my family is, getting some of the stuff I earned during this life. But, not as kids, not like just give them everything. I want them to learn to work for it and find their passion, whatever that is, even if it doesn't make a bunch of money. Hopefully, I've done well enough that, they have something to start with that, they can go into real estate and not feel pressure that, they have to have a second and third job in order to make it in the first 3 years because real estate's tough. It's tough to get
Yeah.
going. It's tough to like maintain. And I think that's the hardest part for new agents or even old agents. Like you get scared. You don't sell something 1 month and you're like, it's the end of the world. Like I'm never going to sell something again. And then you do again.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I love that. final question for you. And I really appreciate you jumping on and giving us the perspective from your side of the industry and just talking about your journey and your path. And, um, now coming back to Columbus and diving back into the market. And, it's interesting because your side, you know, you missed the wild, wild west of the new builds here
Hmm.
locally. Now you're
Yeah.
kind of catching the other side of it. But Lindsay, someone, getting into the business, whether it's a real estate agent standpoint or thinking about getting in on the new construction side, what's one piece of advice that either maybe was shared with you when you first got in, or one that you share now with people, or something that maybe you wish you had, starting your career? What's that one piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience?
Do the thing that makes you most uncomfortable. It's probably going to be the best thing for you. I know, honestly, doing this podcast in like, I don't know, a few years ago, maybe 3 months ago, I would be terrified. And I actually wasn't terrified for this. And I don't know why. I think it's just, all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm doing this and I'm doing it well. And I can share, I can share my story and I can share what I have done. And I think just doing that podcast, doing the video, even the reel, even if you look like a dummy, like just do it and you're gonna get better at it. And I even saw like you posted something recently. You're like, you had a goal of, I don't know, doing 1,000 videos or something. Now you probably do videos in your sleep and you're like, whatever, it's just another, another interview, not a big deal. It makes it easy. I wish I would have done that earlier in my career, reached out and networked and made myself more uncomfortable than I did. Because I think I would have been successful quicker.
Hmm.
I felt like I was pretty successful. It was like good enough, in the beginning. But I think if I would have stepped outside of my box, I probably could have done it a lot faster.
That's awesome. I mean, it's spot on. It's spot on. And if you are scared, find someone to do it with you,
Yeah.
right? Part of my video journey was 30 days straight, every single day doing an Instagram live,
Yeah.
and it wasn't necessarily to figure out Instagram live, but it was just to get myself comfortable with going live, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. So that
and
you can stop
no,
feeling so uncomfortable.
and you know what the icebreaker was the very first time I went Instagram live. A fellow agent that I'm friends with popped on, and I saw that you could add someone to your live. So I
Oh,
added
you're like,
them to
great.
my live, and then we just had a conversation for like 5 minutes. And I was just like, oh, that wasn't that bad, you know?
Yeah. Got that over
So,
with.
yeah, find a partner. If you're struggling with something or you're scared to do something, find a partner, do it with them.
Find yourself a John.
Lindsay, thanks so much for today. I really loved our conversation, and hearing your journey, and obviously, the new construction side of things. This is a little bit different than our side, but those that are watching, if you are a real estate agent or someone who's thinking about building, here in Central Ohio, or just want to reach out to Lindsay because you connected with her story and just want to learn a little bit more about the new construction space. Or if you're a real estate agent thinking that maybe, hey, the residential side's not for me, maybe I need to go over to the new construction side. Lindsay's phone number is down below. Please make sure that you guys reach out to her. She's going to be a wealth of information and knowledge and a resource to you. But Lindsay, those that are listening in on the podcast that maybe can't see your phone number, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
My cell is 480-787-1797. You can text or call, whatever makes you most comfortable. And ljones@rockfordhomes.net is my email. I think we missed the rockfordhomes.com by like a year in the early 2000s. So
Lindsay, thanks so much. And if I can ever repay you for your time and coming on here and sharing and providing to my community, please let me know. I'm here to help you any way that I can.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.